in one sentence, it would be that the story is about unlearning these schemes and getting to know each other, like who we are actually, not what they want us to be.
Welcome to Subtext Discourse Art World Podcast, highlighting unique perspectives on contemporary art and photography. I'm your host, Michael Dooney. My guest today is Berlin-based visual artist and art mediator, Joanna Szproch. Her debut photo book, Alltags Fantasie, was over a decade in the making and a multi-layered creative journey of self-discovery. We speak about how the project began and the many hurdles she encountered along the way to it being completed. I have to applaud Joanna for being so candid and authentic during our interview, sharing both professional and personal struggles she's endured, as well as how she's using these experiences to empower others. A quick reminder to please subscribe to Subtext and Discourse Art World Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It helps to grow the show and enable others to learn about my guests. Now, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Joanna Szproch. I wanted to talk to you for a while about your publication because I think I'd heard about the lead up to it, and I know how much of yourself has gone into the book, and I've been reading your Substack, and I finally saw the physical copy of it when we met in Paris at the Polish Institute for an event during Paris Photo. I guess maybe the first question is, how did you decide on the title Alltags Fantasie, Everyday Fantasy?
I actually first came with the title to a little workshop, and then I realized that, wow, this is the title for my book. And before, I actually wanted to name the book after my muse, that is kind of the main character there, or alter ego. I just have problems with these labels because she's just my friend. And I see her as my friend. And I think during a long process, we develop kind of play of interaction that we kind of performed our fantasies in a very kind of everyday setup.
When did you meet her?
So, yes, this is kind of important that when we met for the first time, it was still in Warsaw before I moved to Berlin. And
is that when you count the project starting? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you count the project starting when you met her?
Yeah, good. Please ask questions because, it's a long story and I don't know if it's consistent. So maybe I just explain first that after my graduation, I studied art in Łódź, and I just graduated 20 years ago. It was 20 years last December. And then I kind of was really fascinated by fashion photography because it was for us kind of something new, because we just entered capitalist phase after being communist country. And so fashion for me was really something that was kind of fantasy world. And I was unaware of the whole exploitative aspect of it. And I really, really dreamt about becoming a fashion photographer. And yeah, it's like when I reflect on it now, like my gaze changed a lot, and it was really influenced by that allure. And because I was quite young and naive also, I think I was told to follow some rules. So because of fashion, I met Patricia, my muse. Let's call her like this for now. And she was just new face. So she was entering this world as well. And I was kind of like emerging. I was already mid-emerging, like, And I kind of wanted to experiment and do something more personal. And this is how we met. And it was nice match because since we had our first shooting, she enjoyed our collaboration and we kept going. So maybe first meetings were more on a professional level, and then we started having just friendship. And then I moved to Berlin in 2000. So we met first in 2010. In 2012, I moved to Berlin.
What was the reason for moving to Berlin?
So there were many reasons. There were some personal reasons, which I don't feel really confident to talk about. But the thing is, like, I really want to make it clear that Poland has a really difficult history. And people, like the society in Poland, is really traumatized in general. And I think my reason was just to distance from it, to get to know myself and feel more free to be myself, because I probably didn't fit to the norm. And I broke up with my daughter's father when she was around 6 years old. So I was single, I was freelancer, and it was extremely difficult. And I felt a lot of pressure from my family that it's kind of my fault. And I don't think so. And at the same time, I didn't feel really understood artistically because, I was this pretending fashion photographer, but my photography was probably still too artistic for fashion in Poland. And at the same time, it was too fashion for art photography or something.
And there was an audience in Berlin, or you felt that, okay, I can go to Berlin because there's opportunities there?
I hoped for opportunities, but I was totally unaware that Berlin is basically anti-fashion. I find it myself at the moment, like, it's really like more bohemian. And even like when you think about fashion, it's very kind of appropriation of working class, kind of. I really observe it. And I kind of also started a little bit, being like this, but not because I was pretending or I was like trying to get some validation. It was more just because when you are, surrounded by your environment, you become a little bit like this. Yeah. But I think it was actually a very interesting combination because I still remain some Polish glam. I call it like this. Because I find it, we as a nation, I find my culture very romantic. And there is some patriarchy in it as well, but I find that we pay more attention to aesthetics and we are less pragmatic compared to German. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to generalize, but I want to somehow, I have it, I feel it.
Yes, no, I know what you mean.
And I think we actually can also learn from each other because I think Poland has this tendency that sometimes we show off a lot outside, but inside we are very kind of, like, we have a great car, but at home we have like, no essentials, something like that. So I kind of want to make this point because when I moved to Berlin, I gradually started distancing myself from fashion, but I think first I was very disappointed and frustrated and lost. And now I actually see it as a chance to grow because I got totally, my perspective now is, I think, more interesting because I use still some methods or tools I developed when I was exercising still fashion. And now I can translate it to my personal work. So
were you working as a fashion photographer in Berlin, or you were shifting direction when you moved?
But it was not sustainable. I've got some commissions, and I was thinking about it. Actually, my last fashion paid job was 2017. So I would just make it as a point of really like pivotal moment, because since then I really I dropped it, kind of.
Yeah, to concentrate more on the artistic output.
Yeah, I kind of also wanted to find ways to support my living better than this. So I also made some Weiterbildung, further education, and I just got specialization in cultural education, sorry. So I could use my artistic tools for informal education and participative projects. And then I got another kind of specialization around memory culture. So I was I decided that teaching will be secure way of supporting my life. Yeah, so I started working with Patricia in 2010. Yeah, 2018, I think I presented our work in my first actually solo exhibition in Berlin. But then I realized, because that exhibition, there were only works with her, basically.
Okay.
And I felt like something is missing. And then I realized that I knew that I want to also show that project in the book, but then I realized that it's not finished yet. So that was actually maybe a pivotal moment of the project itself, that I realized that I don't want to just show pretty girl because she's pretty. I want to show what is between us, that it's relationship, that also this practice we kind of develop. And then I also realized that I don't want to just use her. I want to show that we are on the horizontal dynamic. And that was also something that changed my perception about myself. And I think that was also a result of our collaboration, because we talked in between shootings with each other a lot about our relationship to our bodies. And we also shared a lot of kind of passion, or like girly experiences. It's not because I don't like that interpretation that it's kind of infantilizing women. But I see when I show that book to other women, then they really find a lot of references from the things that form their identity, or this female experience. And I actually think about it also, everything what is girly, playful, or female playfulness is trivialized. And it's kind of unfair, because guys play and love football, for example, and it's very serious stuff, So after that exhibition, we had this shooting when we shoot each other together, next to each other. And since then, actually, I kind of developed also new approach, that I photograph myself together with people I have important relationships with, which in that book, it's just an introduction, because actually the book also I don't know, maybe I speak so chaotically, but I also want to kind of be authentic about the process. I think that actually that last part of the process was the most important, but the whole thing led to that. And also it was kind of unlearning this fashion dynamics that I kind of entered our collaboration. And probably she also had this at the beginning, because I remember also she was also promised to be top model, and how disappointing it was after some years that actually, because of that promise, she was extremely exploited. Invited for shootings, never paid. Sometimes also she was in this power dynamic with male photographers that now when she reflects on it, it was very exploitative. And so we kind of started with this, and then we kind of were pulling out from this. And then we kind of got to that level when, like, of sisterhood, in which I really believe actually, and I know a lot of critics are very skeptical of it, that it's just another fantasy. But actually, I believe that inherently we are non-competitive, and we just got competitive because of this hierarchical order, and we just need to get validation from our patriarch figure. So in one sentence, it would be just that the story is about unlearning these schemes and getting to know each other, like who we are actually, not what they want us to be. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that the text in the book that my friend curator wrote, because I think it really captures how we do it. We do it changing the masks and don't take them seriously, because actually we are in power of deciding what mask we want to wear today, because today I feel like this and tomorrow I feel like this. And this is also how we communicate ourselves to the world. But it's not that these masks are defining us or something like that. Yeah.
So at what point then did you know that you wanted to turn it into a book? Because if you'd been shooting with her for 8 years and then this exhibition that you had of images of her really caused a shift in your thinking and the way that you were looking at your work and I guess your muse in this case as well, you would have been making new work then to continue this development, really. Like, was there a point then where you thought, now I can finish this, I can package it, for want of a better word?
The story goes actually like this. I think it was before that exhibition already, but I had only maybe 1/3 of the material with her. And I started sending it to different magazines, and I also reached out some publisher, but it was really like maybe 2014 or 15. And this publisher actually offered me to publish it, but he told me that I need to make more content to complete. And we actually had even an agreement. So I kept finishing this project, kind of. And then before, like every time I had some new material, I was contacting him, and he was always very responsive and giving me some feedback. And then when I thought that it's finished, he stopped responding.
Oh, no.
And that was very interesting experience for a kind of beginner, because I was so excited, because he actually also, but it was still, I think the conditions were different back then, because he really offered to pay for the production. So it was $10,000. And it was, back then, it would be probably enough to publish a book. But then, because I was so excited, and there was again this kind of an inequal dynamic, that I never questioned his conditions. And after he stopped responding to me, I eventually contacted some lawyer, and it was actually a family friend. So I just really want to share it with other young emerging artists. Read your agreement and don't agree with everything. But I think I was too soft. I don't know. I don't think I was naive. I just consciously agreed for that because I felt like it's a chance for me. And then after so we wrote an email to him, and my lawyer friend was in CC. And then, so after a year of no response, he just responded within half an hour or something like that. And then he also flipped the narrative that I accuse him of something or something like that, which, now with my experience, I can detect this manipulation easily. And
I'm really sorry to hear that.
And then, no, but it was a lesson. And I think we learn on mistakes, and maybe I think when I think about it, I really actually, I'm glad that it happened and it turned out like this, because then I actually continued the project and it became way more interesting and deeper. And it was not his vision. It was really my vision in the end. And I just wanted to say that when I actually later also analyzed the agreement, it was really unfair. And then there was also something that I would still have to keep it exclusive for 2 or 3 years, even if we wouldn't work together. So yeah, it was really, unfair. Yeah, your question was when I realized what the project is completed. I think I could probably never complete it. I could go and go. And this is also actually because the end of the book is open. And it is really, when I was really sending it to print, I knew that it's for the next, it's introduction to the next chapter kind of thing.
Okay. Because how do you select material for a project that's gone for 11 years?
I knew that I have to decide that it's finished, and now I have to finish it, because otherwise I will never finish it. So I think it was in 2020. I went to some short art residency, and that the purpose of this art residency was to make the final selection and think about the book design. And I wanted to design it myself. I have some training in design, but I don't actually, it's not my job. It's just, I was, when I was studying, I had some design workshops, and I use it sometimes for myself. So definitely it helped me later when I collaborated with the designer. But when I wanted to design it myself, it was impossible. And I think it was because I really gathered so much material over those years that I just totally got lost.
Yeah.
However, I made some dummy, and it was really like a DIY kind of thing. And I started showing it to some professionals. And after their feedback, I realized, okay, I really need to find a designer. And that was the beginning of the pandemic, basically.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think it's important to mention it because I found a designer, and was my favorite Polish designer, Ania Nałęcka. And I want to thank her that she was interested, but it was also pandemic. So she promised to work with me. And then because of the whole situation with pandemic, it took just too long. And then at some point I had to make a decision whether I wait for her another year or I just find someone else. And this is personal, but I kind of want to talk about it because this is also the continuation of my story. And now, from that perspective I have now, I can also see that finishing and being so determined helped me to survive, because I was in an extremely toxic relationship, and abusive relationship. And then, of course, it was also a process to realize it. And because of abuse dynamic, I was not really back then aware what was really going on. And there was pandemic. So it was even worse because of this. And somehow pandemic actually prolonged that relationship, paradoxically. So when I realized that I can't work with Anya, I was really also exhausted because of this relationship, and I really didn't have any energy or resources to find another designer. And then after, I don't know, summer, I kind of surprised how resilient actually I am, because when I digested this disappointment of not working with Anya, I kind of found another approach to find a designer. I just made kind of open call or casting.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I
How?
did.
Like on Instagram or?
I don't remember if it was Instagram or I was just sending emails, but I remember that this time I did a research of other designers I appreciated, book designers, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I had a call with each of them, or meeting, and then I gave myself some time to think about it. And I think it was the best because I really like, this is actually, I can teach it. Because I remember that I kind of analyze each of them from different points, what I am looking for. And one of the things was important for me, that I also need help with sequence and photo editing, because this was actually what gets stuck. And
yeah.
There was, of course, also that we resonate with each other. And I don't know, I cannot list now every aspect which I was assessing, but
yeah, but you had criteria, like I want people to have
criteria.
these. Yeah.
And then eventually I found a designer in Berlin, amazing designer, and this is another story that I can write another book about. She's not Polish, but we are sharing some experience together, which is that she was born in Romania in communist time, and she probably sensed some similarities. Another thing that she was sharing more with my daughter, actually, is that she moved to Germany when she was, I think, around 9 or 11. I don't remember exactly. But I have to say, because it's kind of cryptic, the book is not about my relationship with my daughter, but she appears there. Mostly her work, her drawings. In the end of the book, I also include her photographs, but I kind of wanted to be vague,
Vague, yes.
vague about it, because I didn't want to make it so documentary, you know. I really wanted to make it more like in between fantasy and reality. I think, because I want to mention now my designer's name, Nora Christel. So we arranged our second meeting, because first I just met with her, and then when I eventually decided to working with her, I invited her to my flat, where I have also my studio, and I gave her all the pictures, like these little previews that I was considering, and she was just unbelievable. because she was very quick and very in point, like a magician, like that photos just spoke to her. And then she just made this essence out of it. Then we actually started design, and it was also great that she was here in Berlin. And if I was working with Anya, we would have to meet only online. And this is really a difference, because I think, then the designer has to get to know you. I know probably, and nowadays a lot of people work online, but remotely, but I think it really mattered that she also got to know me better, and actually we became friends as well. So that was another relationship from a professional turn to be friendship, and now we are really like Berlin witches, because she's from Romania, don't forget. And like we have kind of East Bloc commitment with other East Bloc artists, but sometimes we are too busy to meet regularly, but we really share some experiences. So yeah, for me, every kind of mistake, I would say it's actually a chance for growth. Yeah. Like that I didn't work with that publisher. Then that I didn't work with Anya Nałęcka. And then I found amazing designer here, where we now actually are friends and supporters of each other.
Yeah. No, that is really nice. So the designer she selected the images and then did the sequencing and everything else?
Yes, but...
Because I was wondering, I'm curious about the selection of images and some of the motifs that occur throughout the book. And I was wondering if there was what meaning that was behind some
selection. She did a selection from my selection.
Okay,
because yes. I had some selections, but it was definitely too much. But it was not like it was already selected, she helped me definitely kill my darlings for sure. But there was some darlings I didn't let her kill.
Yeah.
There was some it was not that I gave her all control over it. Like it was the controlled control, It was like it was.
Oh, because you already made a book dummy, didn't you? You had your book dummy, so you already had the concept, let's say.
But definitely I got stuck because this is very important thing. That the artist doesn't have this distance to and that objectivity. And sometimes I get stuck in narratives that I can only know myself and others can't. And she just had totally fresh eye on it. And she just actually really got this, because I don't want to sound like I didn't have agency over it.
No, I didn't. No, that's not what I meant.
No, but yeah. I kind of I was really.
Yeah, it was another collaboration.
Yeah, like a curator basically. So she just did her kind of curation. Yeah, and I was very grateful for that. But I remember that because it was just my baby. If it was a commission, if it was just some client picking, I would be probably more agreeable. But I remember that if there was something I didn't like, I would have told her and I would fight for that. And this attitude actually is really different than for commission work. I realize also that, and that's why I hate commissioned work, because I don't like to disappoint my clients, but I also can't really be good in something I don't feel. This was just, I knew that I can really be myself in this, and I can be stubborn and, no, this has to be like this. And then, so there was some situations that she was like trying to convince me that maybe it's too much. But like, for example, with that small booklet inside.
Yeah.
But I was really certain about this. I had my vision, and I think it's working well.
Yeah, because it's as much an art book as it is a photo book. It has different paper sizes, different material types. It has illustrations, there's text. It isn't just a photo book, is it? It's not a collage, but there's lots of different elements.
Yeah, and then she did it greatly, that she matched everything, that it's not chaotic, or I think she really built a great story. And then I really also like that it's not linear and it's not really chronological. It's not that the first photo is the oldest and the last photo is, there is no such a thing there. It's more like associations and patterns, and there are also a lot of gimmicks, but there are, I think, subtle, and they are not stealing too much attention from the whole. I just really like my book.
Well, there's a few things that I noticed about it. There's a few things that reoccur throughout. So there's lots of flowers, there's lots of masks. There's also lots of photographs of photos, like old photos, but then photos that would have been taken during this period that have been rephotographed or that are on the wall and things like that. Like, what was the reason for having documentation of photos? Documents of documents, almost.
This is something actually I'm still kind of working on the explanation, because I don't really know why I was always kind of obsessed of this. In French, it's called muse. I always forget how it's called. In Dutch, it's Droste effect. So it's like picture in the picture. And then and
Droste effect, okay.
And there is like the same kind of role is in this Velázquez famous painting, and there is some theory. I dug into it, but I'm not sure if it's my explanation, and I really want to actually find my explanation. And the thing is, it's kind of, I just initiated it in that book, but now I keep really going and developing it. But it's also the thing that you kind of make sense of the past. And then because of that sense of the past, you make sense of the present.
Yeah.
And this is something about it, maybe. So this is also like kind of introspection thing. Yeah, because now, for example, I had kind of like a artistic crisis after finishing the book, but it was more, I don't know how to explain it, but the thing is, like, I still keep doing, but I didn't have a chance to look at it yet. Because I still work on negatives. I still work analog. And I didn't scan these negatives. Yes, and it's funny, but it's also a kind of experiment. Actually, I think I do it in a kind of purposely. The thing is, like, because when I was finishing the book, I was also working on the kind of next chapter, which was actually the relationship with my abusive ex-partner. And when it ended, I had some material that I didn't want to have a look on, and now I kind of, I think it's really like I really need some time to process everything, like, first, but I still didn't have a moment to assess this. So partially it was because I was digesting the breakup, and basically I kind of focused on healing. This was also another kind of revelation, because the moment I broke up, I got to know that I got a funding to publish a book. And then I got another funding. So I got 2 grants, which covered fully the production costs. And I also could pay myself for project management. Let's call it like that.
Yeah.
So, because it's actually to produce a book, it's enormous amount of work. And of course, I was learning by doing. Yes, I found some publishers, and with the experience of finding a designer, I kind of did the same with a publisher, because I had maybe 4 or 5 publishers that were interested, but only one gave me the whole freedom and offered me royalties.
Wow. Okay.
Because basically other publishers having my grants didn't offer me even royalties.
Wow. Okay.
And this is actually, these are, I don't want to mention maybe, but the names, but they are it's not like they are not scammers. This is just reality.
So who did you end up getting your book published by?
I ended up working with André Frère, and we met only online before we decided to work with each other. And I think I had around half of the money, because I didn't know about the second grant yet. When we decided to work with each other, I don't remember exactly the details. Have in your mind that I was really getting also out of this relationship. And now when I think about it, I really don't know how I made it all. Because this is important thing, because now I kind of speak more openly about these things, because there is a lot of stigma, of course, around this thing. Of course, I don't know if it's obvious or not. I think in recent years it's changing. However, there is still tendency to blame the victim. And that's why I want to talk about it. And I also want to talk about what happens after, because actually I'm still in recovery, and it's not just psychological damage, because of course psychological damage causes somatic problems. Yeah. So I got thyroid problem, for example. I have other things that I'm still recovering from, and probably I will never recover 100%. But what I'm really proud of is that I quit all medicine, because I was also getting some antidepressants and to survive. I also quit alcohol. I also quit cigarettes. And yes, I also heard this actually from someone that, oh, you are always so extreme, and why don't you, and then, now I live like sugar-free life. But actually, I also realized that this was another chance to grow, because I actually learned to have fun without substances.
Yeah, with substances, yeah.
And it's a challenge. But in the very recent situation, when we are really, I would say that those narratives, political narratives, it's very difficult to find what is true. I kind of really want to get waterproof from this manipulation, and this really helps. I don't want to sound like a preacher, because I think everyone has to make a decision themselves. But I am I'm advocating for sober curiosity, because these substances are numbing, and because of this numbness, we kind of tolerate what we shouldn't tolerate. I think this is my kind of preacher wisdom.
Just to tie it up then from your book, you got the publisher, they're French, aren't they? It's a French publishing book company.
Yes, Andre is... so yes, because of course when I was looking for a publisher, I also did a big research, and I was looking for publishers that kind of match my approach. So I knew Andre only from online presence, basically, and I think we met for the first time really in Arles 2 years ago. So I produced the book in Turkey because Andre works with Ufuk, and Ufuk is amazing printer that works with many, many amazing artists. I was also lucky with this, that thanks to my publisher, he connected us. That was another interesting story because printing is very male business environment. And I had a feeling that this was my perception, that Ufuk didn't trust my vision, and because maybe I'm a beginner, and he was really pushing that I would choose another kind of paper.
Oh, okay.
Because we communicated always with Nora that it's open paper, which is offset, that is, porous, and it soaks ink. And Ufuk wanted to convince me that I can't print on this open paper because it will take all the color and the vibrant color. And I really wanted actually this effect because I didn't want to make it too candy-like. I don't know. I wanted to make it a little bit rougher, and I knew about it already long before, and so that was a big fight between us. We didn't fight, but I was so stubborn that I told my publisher, Andre, if Ufuk won't make it like I want, we look for another printer. And Andre was actually totally supportive of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was super complicated because this is a kind of a technical detail. When you get a grant in Germany, you have to show 3 offers, and you need to choose the cheapest because it's from taxpayers, money. So that meant that we would have to look for another offers because I already presented 3, which I think I think I even started looking for another printers, and then Ufuk realized that I'm serious. And he said, okay, I will do it. But I think I'm allowed to share it because actually after all, Ufuk told me that I was right.
Yeah.
So it was really my victory because, I'm a shy girl. And then still somehow, that was really because it was my baby. I wouldn't really, I didn't sleep for a couple of nights because of it, but.
Oh, it's good that you stuck to your guns and you got it how you wanted it to look. How's it been received then? Because I only saw it for the first time a few months ago. How has the response been?
Everyone who saw the book was impressed, but for me, a little bit frustrating that I didn't get any big award that we were hoping for. But we got some smaller awards, which I am also happy with. And because, I really actually don't like this competition because it's really a roulette, I think. And it can be very discouraging, I think. And it was for me because, okay, I don't live here, I'm not really 20 years old. I survived many rejections already, but still it hurts. Because I didn't have a name, and for someone to build a name, it's really the moment you release the book, it's nothing. And this is something I just had to learn, because I expected some, like everyone, I need time to bring attention to this book. And then it doesn't happen like this. And I think I'm calmer, because I was a little bit frustrated. I was a little bit impatient. I felt some advices that I didn't ask for, like, you should do this, you should do that. And actually, I met some people who helped me a lot with their expertise. So, for example, in Warsaw, I met with a person who works for a bookstore in a modern art museum, and she spent like 2 hours with me and gave me so many tips and so many contacts. And without it, she kind of opened another door. So this is something, and to meet with her, it also took like 3 months to arrange it. Eventually, I also had to go to Warsaw. She told me that for her, sometimes it's easier to meet than to pick up the phone or write an email. So these things you cannot kind of skip. And then I think now live with this. I have another observation, because we consume a lot of social media, and it seems like everything is instant. And then we kind of lose this patience and kind of forget that everything is a process. And then, so actually, I think like now when I look back, I think, wow, I was just impatient. And, it's just my first publication. How on earth people can know about me and I don't have a popular Instagram with hundreds, thousands of followers. I actually lost my previous Instagram, which of course I take as a chance to grow. No, I'm kidding. No, but it was actually fished just after premiere. I was so tired, and I just like I'm more careful, and I kind of didn't connect the dots, and it was too late, and I lost my Instagram that I was creating for over 10 years, 14 years or something like that.
Oh my God, that's horrendous.
And I was trying to get it back, but it was... eventually, I gave up.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
But then I made my new profile, which is now only not even 600. So it's nothing. But I know now it's very difficult to get new followers, I feel like. If you don't if you don't use some fake accounts that boost your profile, because at some point I was very active. And I had so many visits on my profile, and it didn't really change much. So I don't know if it's algorithm or is it just their politics that you need to pay. I don't know, but I kind of prepare myself to withdraw or use it very only to post some events or something like that. And I really want to think about moving to Substack.
Oh, right, because you have your newsletter there.
Yes, but the thing is, I didn't write for some time because last year it was really busy, and I, as you said, and I was promoting my book, and I was doing everything I could, which resulted in extreme exhaustion, and to the point that I got basically mental breakdown. I don't know if I should be so vulnerable about it, but actually the thing is I want to be again honest, because I just realized that I created that book for the sake of my own self-actualization or whatever, but I cannot become a slave of it, and I cannot just sabotage my well-being So I kind of have to be more careful about my resources, which I mean, my health is my resource. Yeah, because I got into that spiral and it was really like, I don't know. This is the thing I heard, and it's really a kind of a standard for the book that you have 2 years to promote it. And if it's not getting out there, like, I mean, if you don't promote it sufficiently that it doesn't get distributed in some important bookstores or get some press, then after 2 years, it disappears. And it's a big waste. And I definitely want to prevent it, but not only because it's my work, but it's also effort of many people. And it's also paper materials, we think about being more conscious about environment. So I don't want it to end up in some warehouse, getting molded or something like that. But it's not my first motivation as well, kind of, So I had so much pressure on myself that I kind of overworked myself.
Yeah.
And maybe also psychologically, because I was really workaholic. It was also a consequence of my recovery, as well as this kind of ridiculous pace that is caused by pandemic, I think, because I really see everyone is extremely exhausted. Nobody has time. But I also see social media actually, and then screen time also is exhausting. And after I had this kind of burnout, I decided to quit social media for some time. And I saw improvement after 1 week, like.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Of course, but it needs discipline. So you need to be really consequent with yourself. But I also developed kind of tender approach that discipline is not like it doesn't come from guilt, like, oh, you failed again, but it's kind of, okay, you are doing it for yourself, for your own well-being. And then it helps.
Oh, that's good.
Sorry, if it's too psychological, but I really want to promote it because the narrative is like, there is a big discussion about it now. Like, I don't know if you encountered this discussion with Jonathan Haidt.
Yes.
And he's also for restriction, and the blame is on us, not on the system. And this, because it's obvious that it's designed to be addictive. So it's not really we are not failing. We are just really victim of this.
Yeah, that's true. Did you want to talk about, I guess you're still promoting the book or what you're going to do next?
Well, so last 2 months, I was kind of on a sick leave, kind of. Like, like when you're a freelancer, you
don't get holidays.
But I kind of, that's the thing that I had to make myself a decision. Okay, now you just slow down. And I started taking care of myself, and I'm gaining my energy back to start the fight again. So I definitely want to tour with my book. I have some contacts in Poland that we kind of agreed that we are meeting this year, but actually my biggest goal is to make a show. And I was kind of trying to get some shows last year, and I applied for some grants. I didn't succeed, so it also kind of caused me some disappointment and yeah, I said that rejection always hurts, no matter, how many times you endure it. So I kind of had to recover from it a little bit and reassess. And then I also had this mentoring program with Anne Shelton, and it was really helpful because it was a little bit like before my work with my designer, that I just had to have someone to hear my ideas, to help actually myself, hear myself, kind of. It's different when you have it here and in your head, and it's different when you just let it out. And Anne helped me also to crystallize my ideas, and also empowered me with very nice words that I need to remember about, that my perspective can be shared by others, and it's not only about me, but it's also that others can find something in that story. Because I also kind of struggle constantly with this kind of hyper individualization and atomization, and that is boosted by capitalists, basically. And I really needed to hear this from outside, I think. Not just that, okay, my story is, I don't know, I don't like to be in the center of attention. At the same time, I am, and I'm doing it purposely. But it's complicated. So Anne helped me a lot. And then I also realized I have to be more selective with where I put my attention, because it is really a limited resource. It's not endless. And I also have to take care of myself, also have to kind of sustain my living. Yeah. And this came also, this realization came thanks to that mentoring, but also thanks to this. I got involved in this project last year that I really wanted to do something activist to kind of contribute to this cause of domestic abuse awareness. And I don't want to go into many details how it started, because it was kind of synchronicity somehow. I was not looking for this commission, and it came to me, and I thought, okay, this is a kind of like, it was meant to be like this, That's like, I was manifesting it. And then actually I was also not experienced, because it's apparently a trauma work. So what was it? It was actually, I got in touch with some organization that fights domestic violence in the context of neighborhood. So neighbors are growing kind of network that protect victims. The kind of core of the idea is that domestic violence is not a private thing. It's really a violation of human rights. And we should be all mobilized to be more cautious and have this civil courage. So actually I got also involved in some situation with my neighbors, because there is also some abuse situation in there. And this is why I got in touch with that organization. And then I introduced myself. I got actually also introduced in the city kind of structures, because I got to know some organizations, like I kind of learned how the city works on different levels, like the state level, city level, then district level, and then and I got introduced to our local, it's called quartiers management. And then I got asked if I would have an idea how we could make some action for the neighbors, to involve the neighbors in it. that would eventually turn to be an exhibition in the Rathaus. Rathaus, I don't know, it's like a city hall.
The town hall.
Yeah. So I kind of came with the idea because, as I mentioned before, I did this further education in participative projects and cultural education, and I also actually already ran some other this kind of projects before, so I had already some expertise and experience in it. And I suggested that we would organize a shooting during some like local festival, and we would invite our visitors to hold some slogans that were kind of violence critical, but not only about violence, but also about diversity, equality. So our kind of values that we promote in Neukölln, that is very kind of multicultural district. I mention it purposely because now we have in Berlin the rise of right wing, and it's really against these values. So that's why I kind of even got more motivated to get involved in this. Anyways, the project was great. It was a big success, but there were some things I couldn't really foresee, and it kind of re-traumatized me. So what was actually very difficult for me that I only realized afterwards, I was asked, which was like kind of last minute, I was asked to give a speech in front of the whole publicum, like audience, and there were a lot of strangers and politicians, and wow, I never had a situation like that before actually. And I had to give it in German, and I didn't want to read it. So I had to memorize it, everything. And the idea was that I would speak about my own experience as well. And there is also some institutional failures that I don't want to blame anyone from that institution directly, but I think there is some problem that these projects are underfunded and they all work like only part-time, and the communication was really bad, and I really needed some support. And eventually I felt like I was left alone with everything, and I was supposed to install the exhibition together, and eventually everyone got sick and I had almost no support. And that was really when I was like, because the speech I was preparing, probably this, I think. It was also kind of, I was not really conscious about everything what was going on, but I had really sleep problems. I got really this trauma response, like I had like muscle pain and this kind of stuff. This is all really trauma connected. So I ended up really suffering.
Yeah.
Like it was big success, and I was done. And I really want to be also honest about it, because I think it's a really important work, and we still need to develop better models that protect victims, like trauma-oriented work. That this is something that was missing. And actually, I have two conclusions. First, I really want to commit to this work more, but that I don't want to do this kind of commissions. I really want to kind of shift this to like kind of combine it. So I was actually just recently assessing my kind of next steps, and I really would love to turn Alltags Fantasie to some show that is at the same time kind of a playground where we can also facilitate some participative, workshops. I don't know yet exactly, but I have this, I feel like there is like a big need for that at the moment. Like We talked about it before, that carries a political act kind of thing. And also I wanted to make one more reflection about the political situation. And I was already quite critical about this identity politics before, because it focuses on differences and it kind of separates us. And then I would really like to somehow focus on not on identity, but more on experience. And actually, experience can be shared no matter identity, or, So again, I'm kind of, I am just slow. I cannot really go with that pace that is at the moment kind of like present, because I need to reassess a lot to make sense of it. Yeah, and also this, I think it's too much stuff produced. And I think in art is the same kind of. I'm sorry if I hurt or offend some people. I think really we really consume too much, and the quality of this is not so good, the things that we consume. And I would really like us to produce less, to create less but better, or find different strategies. I don't know, like, yes. So this is an open question. I don't have an answer to that yet, but I don't want to give up on book promotion, but I kind of don't want the market dictate me what I have to do in cost of my own well-being.
Well, it's been really good to get some insight into your book and to understand more about it, and for sharing such personal struggles that you've gone through throughout the process. And I mean, I knew that the book was more than just an art project and that it had a lot of personal growth in it, but I think it's obviously a lot more nuanced and a lot more layered than I think I ever anticipated, and I think probably only scratched the surface talking about it now. So thanks for sharing with us. I think that's really nice, and I hope it gives some insight as well into not just your artistic process, but I think for other people as well, like how much happens behind the scenes as well. And that's, I think, like the title of it, the everyday fantasy, but even when you kind of split it, there's this sort of fantasy that we imagine and how everyday actually is. So thanks, Joanna. It's been really nice talking.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Joanna Szproch. In the show notes, you can find links to Joanna's website, her new Instagram after her old one was hacked, as well as her Substack newsletter, where you can read more about the production and promotion of her debut photo book, Alltags Fantasie. There is also a link to a video where you can see the book from cover to cover. Don't miss the latest episode of Subtext and Discourse Art World podcast by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. If you think friends or colleagues would enjoy the insights from my guests, please feel free to forward them a link to the show. You're also welcome to send any comments, feedback, or questions about this or previous episodes of the program, whether through the contact form on my website or via social media. That's all for now. Thanks again for tuning in. My name's Michael Dooney, and you've been listening to Subtext and Discourse.